And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the second season of the ASR Superspeedway Series, race number 6, ready to be run here tonight with 3 races left to determine a champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Kyle Matthews, and Kyle, as we're winding down this season here, we saw last week maybe a little bit of a shuffle go on in the point standings. The former points leader now in second, formerly second in points, now the points leader, and about 2 or 3 drivers enter into the vicinity of mathematically being in the hunt for the championship. We always talk about it. Every position matters in terms of points, so maybe some pressure being felt by a couple of drivers that looked like they were going to maybe have a runaway for the championship, and now there's some new names entering into the conversation.
Well, that's the beauty of super speedway racing right there. It can shake things up in an instant. You know, drivers can think they're looking good, feeling pretty good, the way the point standings look, and then one bad race, and it could really shake things up. And like you said, what happened last week?
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out tonight. We ended up seeing last week Rodney Sullivan's pick up his first win on the season. Now, he's not in the field here tonight, and he's not in the conversation right now mathematically for the championship. We'll talk about who is in just a moment. But first, we got to get a hold of the owner of the series. Apparently, we've got some special announcements here tonight, so if we can get a quick word with Brian Wolf.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Brian, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do, 10-4.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, looking forward to tonight. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty for this championship, but I understand you've got some announcements for us before we go green this evening.
Yeah, just a couple of things real quick. I hate monopolizing your guys' time because you guys do such a great job. I was just thinking about something very profound to say, but just a couple of things. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Charlie Bryant Motorsports and Auto Sales, and Dave Chin, our lead admin here. We want to give them a big shout out and make sure that we recognize them every week because basically they're the ones paying the bills. We're not a league that really relies on donations from its members. So with that, I kind of feel like we're held to a little bit of a higher standard. As far as like the way we conduct ourselves and stuff like that. So we want to give them a big shout out and give them a big thank you for allowing us to come together like this. The other thing was, this is going to be kind of hard for me because I'm having a hard time finding the words, but we all know who Cannon Hennon is. That's the race we put on for that little boy. This will be our 6th year coming up in April. A friend of his family's, a friend of ours, is suffering with terminal cancer. And I know that he'll probably never see this or get to hear this. But we want to give him some recognition and just throw our prayers and our best healing thoughts to his family and Cannon's family, because he's just been one of the centerpieces of Cannon's trial. You know what I mean? He was at all the hearings and stuff like that. And his dog, Roxy, he's a truck driver, and his dog, Roxy, is just feeling kind of lost right now. And they're trying to find a foster home for the dog and everything. And it's just kind of a bad situation. So we just wanted to send our prayers out to Jimmy's family and to Cannon's family, friends of the family. So with that, I'm going to move on to last week. Seth, I got to thank you. Jessica and John Godfrey kind of saved the day because of one of my failures. I failed to get you the information that you needed regarding the core and stuff like that. But you guys really saved the day, man. You're like you're like a sim racing savant, man. We just couldn't be more pleased to have you in our corner for these races. It's been a blast.
Well, we're great to be on board here. And yeah, last week, I mean, like I said, I think the best thing was that we were able to get it resolved. We were able to see a majority of the race because that would have been unfortunate with what we were able to see, that exciting finish and everything, if we ended up spending about half the broadcast trying to figure out the issue. But as you said, yeah, John and Jess coming in clutch in getting us the file we needed for everything. I made sure I had it in here tonight, so we're all systems go for tonight's race. But yeah, Brian, appreciate you taking the time here, joining us here pre-race. Best of luck here in this one. You're starting to creep into that championship hunt. Maybe tonight you take a step further, maybe get into that single digits. Range, maybe for the title with 3 races left.
I know, right? It is getting close. The top 5, 6, 7 guys still have, we're still in it. We're still all in it. And with just what we have 3, 6, 7, 8, 3 to go, including tonight. So, yeah, it's it's getting intense.
Certainly is. Well, we're looking forward to tonight. Best of luck. And maybe this isn't the last time we're talking to you here this evening.
Yeah, I hope to talk to you guys later. Or if not, I'll see you next week, man. Thanks for being here.
Sounds good. That's Brian Wolf, league
User
owner
was
and
moved out of
third
your
in
channel.
points coming into tonight. Currently sitting 19 points out of the points lead. Brian Rawson comes into this evening the new points leader. A top 5 run last week moved him from second to the top of the standings. He holds 5 points over the former points leader in Chuck Taylor. Chuck ran into some issues late in last week's race and finished back away from the lead pack. We mentioned Brian Wolf, 19 points back. DC88 currently sits 4th in the standings, 23 points back. Brad Otto, 26 points back in 5th. And Jeffrey Elliott, who came off a top 3 run last week, a podium finish, is currently sitting 32 points back in the 6th position. Still plenty of opportunity for some of those drivers that are sitting anywhere from 20 to 30 points back. If they're able to even close out the season here, Kyle, with podium finishes, the math doesn't lie. They could easily get themselves up into the championship conversation by the time we get to the finale in a few weeks.
Well, consistency is huge. Absolutely. Keep that up, and they'll be right there in the hunt.
So 66 laps of racing here this evening under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Of course, we ended up seeing some green flag pit stops last week. Fully expect to maybe see that as well this week. Pit road plays just as much a factor into the outcome of a race as what takes place on the racing surface itself. And just want to throw out a brief apology here as well to ASR. I misread their website last week. I had it down as race number 13 on the season. This is actually the 2nd season for the Superspeedway series and race number 6. So I misread their scheduling and thought that we were still in their first season. That was not the case. They ran 8 races in the first season and now are running 8 races in the second season. So we will actually have the corrected graphics in the title every time that we come live here tonight and in the following couple of Sunday nights as we get ready to close down this 2nd season of the ASR Super Speedway series. They've got zeros on the clock here for happy hour, getting ready to go green here in just a moment. Looks like about 18, 19 drivers going to be taking the green flag here this evening. And we were talking about this before we came on the air. Kind of like old times, we ended up covering races at this racetrack with this mod back in a few seasons ago on Thursday nights in the Talladega Challenge series. So for some of the drivers that ran in that series on a weekly basis, kind of maybe a comfort level advantage here coming into these races this season.
Yeah, some familiar names there from Thursday night. Familiar mod, these Aero 88 cars, like you mentioned, Burnt Screwdriver Speedway. So, yeah, it kind of does feel like a Thursday night in a way.
Drivers gritting up here as looks like Greg Palmer going to capture the pole position for this one here tonight. Greg 10th in the point standings, 58 points out of the points lead. Not sure if there's enough time, enough races for him to be able to get into the championship conversation, but he would love to find victory lane for the first time this season. Ken Roberts will line up to his outside. It's a all Pepsi front row in a sense there with the Pepsi Challenger on the inside. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
front row.
That's true. Wow, how about that? A Mountain Dew throwback on the outside with Ken. Jeffrey Elliott coming off that podium finish last week. Going to share row number 2 with Jessica Loreley, Dennis McCarthy, and Perry Bone. They're going to be row number 3. Row 4, Chuck Taylor trying to get the points lead back alongside of Brad Otto. Looks like I don't know if that was the broadcast car or if somebody missed the grid, but Adam Simonik is currently by his lonesome in row 5. Row 6 with Gary Heiser and Mark Paglia. Robert Spring and Ed Finley. They're going to be back in the following row with John Godfrey, Brian Wolf, Robert Jackson, and DC88. Bringing up the rear along with Brian Rawson. Rawson, the points leader, going to start shotgun on the field here tonight, but that's kind of classic Brian Rawson, as looks like, I think someone missed the grid. I think we're getting a restart here. Either that or everybody's deciding let's wreck them up. Yep, looks like we're resetting there.
Either that or it's a really hooligan race of some sort, but...
Yeah. I don't think there's a pole here they can drive around at Burnt Screwdriver's Raceway. We'll have to see.
Now, do they qualify or do they use Lotto Go?
Nope, they qualify.
Oh, they do qualify. Okay.
Yep. See who that driver is that was supposed to be alongside of Adam Simonik if they indeed do grid up. Could have also been a case of somebody losing a gear here as they fired up the engines as well. Sometimes there'll be a race reset for that. But so far, 5 races in the books, and 5 different drivers have gone to victory lane. We mentioned Rodney Sullins most recently last week. Also Brian Rawson, Chuck Taylor, DC88, and Dennis McCarthy have all found victory lane so far this season. Could we potentially go 6 for 6 here tonight?
And you were right, somebody did lose a gear at the very start, so that's why they restarted everything. Makes sense.
Absolutely. Everyone checking their gears here, making sure that they're all there in preparation for the green flag here tonight. 3 races remain until a champion will be crowned. Greg Palmer, Ken Roberts, Jeffrey Elliott, Jessica Lorley, the top 4 here, all looking for the first win on the season. You got to go back to 5th to find Dennis McCarthy, to find a former winner, looking to be the first multi-time winner here in Season 2. Through the tri-oval we come, making our way down towards Turn 1 where the start-finish line is, and race number 6 of the second season of the ASR Superspeedway Series is green.
I really thought you were going to say making our way downtown. It's like, wait a minute.
That'd be driving our way downtown.
Greg Palmer got a really good start right there. He's going to easily have the lead as they head to the backstretch.
Immediately moves to that middle line. We've seen so many times at Burnt Screwdriver's Raceway. Inside the line. Ooh. Maybe a little bump right there. Got Palmer squirrely, but we see so many times the shorter way around through 1 and 2 on the inside line is preferred. You're getting up to speed, but then once they get up to full song off of turn 2, the momentum shifts to that middle line. Ken Roberts doesn't want to wait. He wants to lead the first lap of the night as he crosses to the inside of Palmer. It's going to be close to see who's going to get that first lap led.
And it looks like Roberts.
It was indeed.
Ken Roberts went to victory lane Thursday night in the Talladega Challenge, so he's got a little bit of momentum heading into this race.
Scoring says it was 15 one-thousandths of a second. The gap there between Roberts and Palmer for the first lap led of the night. Bunch of drivers here in the field as well that are way down in the point standings, really are out here racing for the victory, not having a really big picture race. Ken Roberts being one of those drivers. Jessica Lorley as well there in the, shows as the 094 on your scoring pylon, but shows as the 94 on track. Had a little bit of a miscommunication last week where we ended up having a driver be a generic car because they were the 94. Jess was the 94, so she's the 094 here for the remainder of the season.
What is that sponsor on her car? I can't even tell what that is.
Thriftbooks.com.
Huh, interesting.
I'd give you more information on it, but I hate books, so I didn't do research on it.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you.
Just going to slot down in front of Ken Roberts, right behind Greg Palmer, so they've, for the most part, abandoned that second line. And now they're put their left sides on the yellow line, shorter way around the racetrack here. Perry Bond's going to be the one to lead the outside line. As soon as I say that, Ken Roberts and Jeffrey Elliott from third and fourth, they're going to shift up to the second lane. We had an issue for Mark Paglia. I'm not sure exactly what it was. He's being scored a lap down right now. And actually, either he had to make an unscheduled pit stop or he started from pit road. One or the other scenarios. I'm not sure which it was, but he's currently being shown a lap down to the leaders, and you can see he is not up here in this lead group. So he will certainly be hoping for a caution to get back on the lead lap and get back into the fight for the victory here this evening.
Yeah, I don't even remember seeing him on the grid, so it's like he may have started the race from pit road.
Saw Ken Roberts make the move up to the top from third place. He got pushed to the front. Now he jumps to the inside line. Jeffrey Elliott, who pushed him to the lead, now leading the charge up there with help from Perry Bone and Robert Jackson. Or correction, that's Brad Otto. A lot of similar colored cars here out of Wolfpack Motorsports with Robert Jackson and Brad Otto, Adam Simonic as well.
It's like the inside line is a little bit more organized right now. Roberts has a slight lead here. Actually clear ahead of the 37. I believe that's the 36 that's leading that outside line. Well, as soon as I say that, he jumps to the outside.
Gonna give that outside lane a tow. Wow, look at the run they had, and oh man!
Oh boy.
When they caught Ken Roberts, they were going to such a high rate of speed, it checked him up a ton, and that organization in the outside line is quickly disintegrated.
There's quite a few bumps given right there. Everybody did a nice job of hanging onto their cars. That could have been something.
Roberts still clear for the moment on that inside line. Trying to tow Jeffrey Elliott and company around the longer way through the corners. Inside line charges back here with Greg Palmer. A lot of back and forth right now in terms of momentum. That inside line gets the better entry into the corner, but then from the center off and down the straightaways, it's that middle line, that outside line that gets the better momentum. Jeffrey Elliott taking a look 3 wide. Nobody going with him yet. Now here comes some help in the form of Brad Otto, and suddenly Ken Roberts and Perry Bond going to find themselves in the middle with no help. We saw just how much momentum that middle line had with everybody lined up. Now it's turned into the sucker hole.
There's one more car getting in there behind them, but not close enough to get to the back bumper of the was that the 60?
That is the 60. And that third car you're referring to, I believe, is Robert Jackson in the 034. As now his teammate Adam Simonic pulls down in front of him. So 4 cars in that middle line. Sounds like they are approaching the 28 of Mark Paglia. He's just now crossing the start-finish line, and there's the leaders crossing the start-finish line. So for Mark, his problems are going to get a little worse. He was a lap down, would be in the free pass position. He's now going to lose a second lap when the leaders thunder around him.
Yeah, I noticed that about a lap or so ago, and they really caught him in a hurry. Just goes to show you how fast these cars are when they're in a pack compared to a car all by himself.
Lap time comparison in terms of speed for Mark Paglia last time by, 179.8 miles per hour for the leaders, 196.6. So Paglia will look to latch on to the tail end of this pack here. And we'll take a look. I'll keep an eye on the scoring monitor here. We'll see if with losing the second lap, if they maybe give him a lap back, keeping him at -1 and keeping him in the lucky dog position. As making his way up on the inside line there is the 18 of Chuck Taylor. Saw him last week. He had a strong run but got caught up in an incident late in the race. Finished quite a ways behind Brian Rawson, subsequently lost the points lead. Taylor working his way up now into a side-by-side for the third position with Dennis McCarthy, trying to get those points back. A win, obviously, would be a step in the right direction, but right now, in terms of big picture racing, you know that the entire time he's keeping an eye on where he is in relation to the 6 of Brian Rawson. Brian Wolf is that silver and blue number 29, fifth on the inside line right there. Started out back along with John Godfrey and Brian Rawson. He's made his way now up almost into the top 5, trying to take that spot from Dennis McCarthy, right behind the Dale Sr. throwback of Gary Heiser, that Intimidator black GM Goodwrench Chevrolet.
Well, the 18 car drove down right in front of that 3 car right there. Thought they were going to get together, but threw a little bit of a block on him there.
I want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it, because every time I do, I tend to jinx the field. But we are 11 and a half laps
stops
into this. There you go. Okay, you said it. So now,
Yes,
that gives me the opening to talk about it.
I'll take the commentators.
Appreciate it. About roughly 5 to 7 laps away from when these drivers will have to start thinking about coming down pit road here. And we've seen last week, pit road played a huge part into Rodney Sullins being able to pick up the victory. We only had a few drivers up in the lead group after a pit stop cycle was completed, as a number of drivers had some slight mistakes or some slower trips to pit road and did not get the benefit of a late caution to be able to catch back up. So we'll see if we end up getting a green flag pit stop here in the early going, how that might set the tone for the remainder of the race and the contenders thereof for the win.
There are about 7 projected laps, I would say now.
Robert Spring, saw him lose a little bit of touch back there with the lead group. They are side by side, so he might be able to draft back up there to Mark Paglia or DC88. Update on Mark Paglia, by the way, as well. He is still being scored 2 laps down, so he would need a couple of cautions to be able to get back onto the lead lap, as Dennis McCarthy in that UPS Monte Carlo moving his way forward. Saw Dennis run this car on Thursday nights. This is actually a throwback to an actual UPS truck. The gray on the top, even the sunroof that they have in those UPS delivery trucks.
I don't ever remember there being any gray on there, so this must have been a while back. Another 3 wide once again.
Got Wolfpack Racing getting a little aggressive in that third line. I believe that is Robert Jackson up on that top side with help from Brad Otto. Ed Finley is up there as well.
2 cars painted exactly the same. Yeah, that's going to be fun to try to differentiate those two.
Ed Finley back there in a Pontiac Firebird. That would be Matt McIntyre approved.
Oh, yes.
It's been all Greg Palmer for the most part here. He's been able to hold off charges from Ken Roberts and Jeffrey Elliott and Dennis McCarthy. He's been out in front now for 8 laps. Ken Roberts has led 5. And then 1 lap led each by Dennis McCarthy and Jeffrey Elliott before giving the lead back to the pole sitter in the 22.
That 3-wide racing we just saw the last lap, that really helped that bottom line. And Palmer got back to the lead quite easily. We're not too far away from, if this keeps up, we don't have a caution, we're not too far away from green flag pit stops. It's just told 4 projected laps on fuel for these guys.
And we know that for Greg Palmer, he'll probably have to come to pit road maybe a lap earlier than that, since he's been out in front for a majority of this, using up more fuel than everybody else in that clean air. So it may end up drawing some others to pit road maybe a lap earlier than they'd be projected. And we've seen so many times in Superspeedway races, you can have issues coming to pit road, on pit road, leaving pit road, but it's deemed by race officials off the racing surface and doesn't bring out a yellow flag. So we're going to have to keep an eye on all these drivers when they make that dive onto pit lane. Make sure that the execution is perfect, because right now, outside of Pagley, who is in this lead group, everybody else that took the green flag are only separated by less than a second and a half. It could be an entirely different story once the pit stop cycle is completed.
Good thing for the in-game chat. Everybody can signal when they're coming down the pit road.
That's
that way.
right.
Now McCarthy on the outside getting a nice push there from Roberts.
A little surprised that they're this many rows deep, double wide, with pit stops looming.
Well, speaking of pit stops, like Jeffrey Elliott's coming to pit road and somebody else right behind him there. I can't tell who that is.
It's
But
Robert Spring in the Cleveland Browns number 74 machine.
is he from Ohio?
He is.
I was about to say, because we see him
Browns
run
and
the Ohio
Buckeyes.
State. Okay, that's... See, we see him run the Ohio State colors on Thursday night. And
Seeing more radios lighting up. McCarthy, you just saw him shift from the top to the bottom. He might be planning on coming to pit road here shortly. We'll see if Ken Roberts can get clear on that outside line. If he dives to the inside, yep, I think he's coming this time by. We might have maybe the whole pack. Let's see.
yeah, it's going to get busy.
Oh, they're making
Oh, they're
contact.
packed.
Robert Jackson's around. Perry Bond hits the inside wall.
Pagula.
Caution's going to come out for this, and I don't think anyone made the commitment line. Some drivers are able to turn back up onto the racetrack. Some of these others... Oh, look, Gal Pagli is still there. Yeah, Ken, I was going to say, I saw Ken pulling to his pit stall. I don't think you can take service here. I think everyone's going to have to pass through, or else they're taking a penalty.
Saw the 024 stop.
So they're all
Greg
pitting.
Palmer.
This says to me, those drivers couldn't make it around another lap. So they're taking the penalty here and now, pitting under a closed pit road, not running the risk of running out of fuel trying to go around again.
Well, one of them was Greg Palmer, who was leading most of that
Yep.
race. So as you mentioned, using up more fuel leading the race. So not really surprised to see him in that position.
A couple of these drivers were trying to duck onto pit road. Jessica Loralee was one of them and was able to turn back up onto the racetrack. So must have enough fuel to be able to make another lap, but some of those others apparently did not have that luxury. As we'll go back and take a look at what brought out this first caution, and I'm almost wondering, when I saw it happen live, they were double wide coming off of turn 4. I believe one car, Adam Simonik, started coming down and pinning from the outside line, and I almost wonder if the car behind him, the 034 of Robert Jackson, was trying to do the same and just kind of slowed in the middle of the racing line with Perry Bond behind him, who was not planning on coming to pit road.
And there's a big checkup on that outside, so definitely looks like it.
Adam Simonic goes for a slide through the grass. Paglia caught some air there as the rear tires came up off the ground. It just looks like the 034 starts slowing as if he was going to try to come to pit lane and can't pit from that far up.
No. So I was surprised they were double file. You know, as everybody was coming to pit road, they usually try to get all single file coming down there, but
And then this made me nervous. Oh, look at this DC88 one actually pit, and the 28 was stopped against the wall in his pit style. Now this will be interesting to see how the 094 looks in terms of track position now, because I think she was maybe the only driver that was coming to pit lane that was able to pull back up the racetrack here. Okay, a couple of others did too. Ed Finley did, and so did Brad Otto. So when those drivers come to pit lane here, when it's open on the first lap of caution, they won't have the EOL penalty. All those other drivers who did pit under a closed pit road, because I guarantee you the caution came out before any of them got to the commitment line, they're going to have to start towards the back of the pack, and that's, I think, going to allow the 094, the 80, and the 47 to be able to leapfrog all those other drivers.
now would the 28 still get a free pass even if he was involved in the caution? Or do they have a rule like that? Or
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that. Looks like the answer would be yes, as we see him pulling up alongside of the pace car. Chuck Taylor stays out for a lap led, so that could be an important bonus point for him in the championship hunt. Like Perry Bond also was down pit road. A couple of others as well. Looks like Jessica Lorley also came down. Maybe I'm trying to look and calculate here. Lights aren't out, so we're probably going to go back green at the completion of 23 on a 24. That's going to give us roughly about 23 laps to go. We're still short of being able to make it on fuel by about 4 to 5 laps.
what wear do they use?
2X.
Oh, 2X. Okay, so they pitted around what, lap 20 initially, and then we have a couple cars coming down here to top off. I don't know why I'm trying to do math here. That never works out in my
I know,
favor,
right?
But
And then whenever I think I have it figured out of what the drivers are going to do, they do something different. It's like Lorelei, Heiser, Spring, Perry Bond, Dennis McCarthy, and Chuck Taylor all came down pit road, as well as Greg Palmer to top off. Paglia should be going around getting his lap back once the lights go out here on the pace car, which will have him at only 1 down for this upcoming restart. All 18 drivers still running. I didn't necessarily see in that wreck either any contact that looked significant enough that it's going to take any of the drivers out of the running for this win or to be competitive. The blowover, obviously, there for Mark Paglia, it visually looked like it could be bad, but he seemed to land pretty well, pretty gently onto his wheels, didn't have any further contact with anyone, so I can't necessarily, when it's a wreck, call it harmless spinning, but in terms of damage sustained, I don't think there was a whole lot for anybody.
yeah, I don't really see any damage on anybody, amazingly, there, so I would like to think that everybody's okay, but we'll definitely see once the green flag comes back out, which will happen next time by as the lights on the pace car are out.
So we're a third of the way through tonight's race. Ken Roberts is going to be the leader when we go back green. He'll have DC88 to his outside. Jeffrey Elliott and Brian Rawson, they'll be in row 2. First time we've really mentioned Brian Rawson here tonight, outside of when we read him starting shotgun off the grid. Points leader coming into tonight, looking for his second win on the season. John Godfrey and Ed Finley, they're going to be back in row 3. Brad Otto, Brian Wolf, row 4, and then the Wolfpack teammates of Adam Simonik and Robert Jackson are going to complete the top 10. All 18 drivers are still running, 17 of them on the lead lap, and it looks like Gary Heiser may have come back down pit road again to top off the fuel tank, so trying to get a little bit closer to that window to make it the rest of the way, but I believe right now, even with him coming to pit road when he did and some of those others, those half dozen drivers the lap prior, I think we're still looking at roughly about a half can of fuel necessary to get to the finish of this race. Got a full week of racing here this upcoming week. Kicking things off on Tuesday night. You can join us over at our friends at Split Second Broadcasting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we'll be at Iowa Speedway for the penultimate race of the season, setting the table for the championship battle. You check them out at Split Second Broadcasting on Twitch and YouTube. Wednesday night, the championship's going to be decided for the 2025 season of the Grind Cup Series. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Thursday night, Rolling Thunder Gaming, their season continues, season 66 at Talladega Superspeedway.
Oh boy.
Oh, Ed Finley and Brian Wolf in trouble on the restart. And this is going to bring out the yellow once again.
Not exactly sure what started that. If I had to guess, somebody didn't get going or missed a gear or something.
The 80 got squirrely, and the 29 got into him. And a couple of other drivers got swept up, as it is frozen field. They'll make their way back here to the caution, and this is a big break for Mark Paglia, because that's a very quick yellow that gets him back on the lead lap now.
I was about to say the happiest person to see that caution right there.
Let's take a look at what happened. Finley was, I believe, 6th on the restart. It looked like Brian Wolf.
29 had a problem there. Jumped out of line, and I think the car just got out from under him or something. I don't know what.
Got super squirrely there, and let's see if maybe the 80 did not get going here, and that's why the 29 stepped out. Oh, they checked up.
Kind of bottlenecked right
yeah.
there.
So Rawson tried to give a shove to DC88 in that outside line. It stacked them up back to Finley. When Finley checked up, Wolf tried jumping to his outside, and when he did, maybe some wheel spin there, and it corrected him down into the right rear quarter panel of the 80. So that puts us back here under caution for the second time here tonight, and might make things interesting in terms of the fuel window now, depending on how many caution laps we're going to have. I think we're going to have a mass migration to pit road. A couple of drivers going to elect to stay out, including that Dale Jr. throwback of DC88, but Ken Roberts and pretty much the rest of the field are all going to come down pit lane to at least get a little bit more fuel in the race car and get them a little bit closer to that window. As we heard earlier on here tonight, talking with Brian Wolf, want to thank the sponsors that have made it possible for us to be able to bring you coverage of the ASR Superspeedway Series second season. Fluid Studios and Bryant Motorsports. Got 2 more races after this to determine the championship, starting off next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right back here on FRN. Talked about the schedule that we've got coming up here this week. Talked about Thursday night with RTG. We cap off the week. Saturday nights, bring you the second race of the 6th season of the Talladega Nights Shake and Bake Series. Saw Ronnie Sullins pick up the checkered flag in the season opener last night. That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, and then we're back here with the ASR Superspeedway Series next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's
something for every night, it seems.
We do.
Like, or...
It's a packed week. So this time by will be at 40 laps to go. Starting to make things a little interesting in terms of the fuel window for the remainder of this race. DC88 out in front. We're going to step aside for a quick FRN race break, and we'll be back here to the action when they go back green here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway right after this. approaching the halfway point here tonight in the 6th race of the 2nd season of the All-Star Racing Superspeedway Series. Ken Roberts is going to get us back underway alongside of Jeffrey Elliott, Brad Otto, and Adam Simonic. They'll make up row number 2. John Godfrey, Perry Bond in row 3. Then Chuck Taylor, Ed Finley, Robert Jackson, and DC88 are going to be your top 10. Mark Paglia with this quickie yellow gets back on the lead lap. So all 18 drivers now on the same lap as leader Ken Roberts, who is tied with Greg Palmer for most laps led so far here tonight at 10. He will break that tie here as he'll bring them down to the start-finish line and get us underway at the completion of lap 28.
But a contact again on that restart, but they were able to keep it together back there.
Like Brian Wolf got shuffled up to the outside line again.
Yeah, I was almost deja vu with that last restart. Ken Roberts got a good jump right there. He's actually got a little bit of distance between both between the battle for second spot there.
A little too good of a start there for the 55 as Jeffrey Elliott looks to draft back up to him going into 3. Brad Otto, Adam Simonic, I thought maybe they could make something happen there on that outside line, but they lost a little bit of speed about 2/3 of the way down the back straightaway. And now Jeffrey Elliott looked like he was going to go up there and try and feed into that momentum on the top side. Instead, he'll cross to the bottom, try and pick up John Godfrey and battle for the top position. Scoring says he led that lap.
What was the interval for that? That was...
Haven't gotten that information yet. As soon as it flashes on my screen, I will tell you. 12 one-thousandths of a second. Saw Jeffrey finish podium last week. Another good run here tonight, and he could close up that championship battle. Came into tonight sitting 32 points out of the points lead, and going into last week's race with his podium finish, he was about 40 points out, so he closed up the gap. As look at this. Ooh,
oh,
man.
boy.
Pinching there from Brad Otto, got to the right rear of Ken Roberts, and Roberts gonna find himself in no man's land. Brad Otto goes to the point, 26 points out of the points lead. We talked about Jeffrey Elliott still mathematically has a shot. Otto, same deal for him, and he's got a lot of help there.
80 car, man, he was way out of shape right there, running right in the middle. It's not a good sight to see if you're right behind him.
It was 3 wide with Perry Bond and John Godfrey. They've now settled it out to double wide. Roberts and Elliott still trying to work something on that inside line. There's a bit of gap from them back to the 7-11 of John Godfrey. They've not really been able to draft up to those top 2. And I'm not sure if that's by design or if maybe there was a little bit of damage sustained by the 7-11 from an earlier incident where he's not really able to suck up to the driver in front of him. Chuck Taylor is all over his back bumper, but Godfrey, there's still that gap of nearly a full car length between his front bumper and the back bumper.
Boy.
Oh, big wreck, and our points leader is in it.
Couple cars upside down. Mark Paglia again.
Had just gotten back on the lead lap, had Paglia.
3 car up against the wall there.
Gary Heiser looks like Robert Spring as well. And Brian Rawson drove away from the wreck, but I'm pretty sure he got a piece of it. Not sure how much, though. You see, he's not that far away from the rest of the pack. But the biggest ride, I believe, was Gary Heiser in the 3, Mark Paglia in the 28.
See some back end damage on the 28 right there. I think Be surprised if that's all he got in that wreck. That was a hard hit for him.
Yeah, we've talked about it with the Aero 88 cars. They're a little deceptive in terms of the damage sustained. So if you see visible damage, you know that that car is taking a big lick. This was at the tail end of the field as well. Oh, wow.
The 3 get into the 28 there, or maybe a bump draft gone wrong or something at first glance. But
28 certainly got directed down into the 6 and the 74, that is for sure. See if we can get another angle of it here. And maybe. It's hard to tell. Brian Rawson got up into the wall with the right front and the right side. Not sure just exactly how much damage he absolutely sustained. Let's see if the aerial shot will give us a better look here of whether there was distance between the bumpers of Paglia and Heiser or not. Oh, yep.
he definitely got him there.
Definitely.
Got him in probably the worst possible spot on a super speedway, right in the middle of the corner. And
there's a lot of check up there in that outside line. It just all accordion domino affected back to the tail end of the field there, and Heiser not able to react in time. The contact with Paglia and the 4 drivers at the tail end of the field all getting swept up into it. As how about this for a little bit of a counter? We saw Chuck Taylor stay out, lead a lap, get himself a bonus point, and Brian Rawson decides to stay out here under this caution period to basically negate that lap led by the 18.
got absolutely nothing to lose by doing that, because you saw, he's at the very back of the pack when the caution came out, so not going to lose any positions at all, so why not stay out and get a bonus point or 2?
All 4 of the drivers that were involved in that most recent yellow all stayed out here. Rawson, Paglia, Heiser, and Spring. Looks like Ken Roberts and the rest of the field came down pit road. Still not in the window to be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. We're still looking roughly about 13 laps shy of the finish. As now Rawson makes his way down. A couple of our lead lap cars behind them too, coming back down pit road again. Jessica Loralee in the 094. Dennis McCarthy as well. And the only thing I could think of with those drivers coming down pit lane is maybe trying to see if they can get in the window to come down pit road on the final pit stop and only take on a can of fuel. Right now, for most of the drivers here, when they come to pit road, they're going to have to take on a can and a half to get to the checkers.
A little bit less time on pit road can make a big difference at the very end here if this goes green, so not a bad idea to come down pit road right now.
Absolutely not. Ken Roberts out in front has made now 5 of the 6 starts here in Season 2. Has 2 top 5 finishes in the previous 5 races, or 4 races I should say, and both of those finishes were his only top 10s as well. Still looking for victory lane this season, however. Mathematically cannot get into the championship battle. 13th in points, 67 points out of the points lead. But as stated, we've had now 5 different drivers that have gone to victory lane here this season. We could have a 6th. You got to look all the way back to 5th position right now, which would be DC 88 for our closest former winner up towards the front. So top 2 rows with Roberts, Elliott, Palmer, and Simonik. They're all looking for that first trip to victory lane this season.
Making a good case for it right now. Roberts and Palmer been up front for a lot of this race. In fact, they were the qualified on the front row and been running near the front this whole time. So
looks like all the drivers involved in that wreck, they've gotten what repairs done that they can, have returned to the racetrack. We'll have to see if they're up to speed. Remember, I was talking about John Godfrey on that most recent run. It looked like he wasn't being able to draft up to the cars in front of him, and I wondered if maybe he had some kind of aero damage that was causing that. Most recently, about a lap or two ago, he came down pit road, and they've actually gone behind the wall. So Godfrey is going to finish in 18th place here tonight. Now we talk about how finicky aero damage is. I remember last night in the Talladega Nights race, John Godfrey brought it home on the podium and said, yeah, I was dealing with aero damage for most of the night there, and somehow the car was still able to remain competitive. Here tonight, gets some aero damage and wasn't able to draft up to a car in front of him. It's amazing how there's just that fine line between having aero damage and still being able to be in the conversation, and then having aero damage and really struggling to even try to find any kind of momentum to stay up with the faster cars that don't have any damage.
don't know if that has anything to do with the mod or just where exactly on the car you get hit. But yeah, it's amazing how the slightest bit of damage can take you out of contention like that, or you can still be in contention. Just never know.
Could be a combination of both, to your point. We're going to have 30 laps to go when we get ready to go back green. So for most drivers, we're going to be looking at roughly around lap 55 when they'd be looking for the target lap to make their final pit stop of the night. And the number 55 is out in front leading this race. 14 circuits out in front for Ken Roberts, as he'll have Jeffrey Elliott to his outside. Those two have been working together during the course of the evening. We'll see if they try and manufacture a little Joey Logano coined phrase okie dokie here to get themselves lined up on this restart. Greg Palmer, Adam Simonik, they're going to be row number 2. DC88 and Brad Otto row 3 with Ed Finley, Robert Jackson, Chuck Taylor, and Brian Wolf. That is your top 10. Taylor 9th on the restart. Rawson, who was involved in this most recent yellow, 14th. So that's 5 positions separating them, and that's the number of points they were separated by coming into tonight's race.
Ken Roberts got a good start there on the inside. Jeffrey Elliott hit whoever that was right behind Elliott. Just couldn't stay with him on the restart. They're going to fall back a little bit here.
Brian Wolf, seeing if there's any takers for a third line. Doesn't look like as of yet. Comes back in behind Robert Jackson. Now a third line trying to form. That's Brad Otto up there on the top side, with help from Robert Jackson, Brian Wolf, Jessica Loreley as well. Suddenly, Jeffrey Elliott and Adam Simonik find themselves trapped in that middle line with no help. Now a couple of drivers going to migrate from the bottom up to the middle. Really broken up from third place on back. Everybody trying to figure out where's the run coming from.
Looks like the bottom is where you want to be right now. Top 3 have broken away. Top 4 now. Okay, not quite 4. I thought.
All that momentum in that third line may have gotten broken up. Ed Finley and Jeffrey Elliott jumped up there, and that's completely stalled out both the middle and the outside line. See Perry Bone and Dennis McCarthy, Jessica Loreley, Brian Wolf, they've all jumped down to the bottom now, and they're going to freight train all these drivers in the second and third grooves that are still not lined up together here. So Jeffrey Elliott, who is up restarting the second position, going to find himself back outside of the top 10. And Chuck Taylor has moved his way now up to the 4th position. Again, we're keeping an eye specifically on the 18 and the 6 5-point separation coming into tonight for the points lead. Championship hanging in the balance with 3 races remaining. And right now, Chuck Taylor looking like he could very well gain back the points lead he lost just 1 week ago.
One car making moves is Jessica Loreley, now to the outside. She's got, I think that's McCarthy right behind her.
And remember, too, Loreley and McCarthy were 2 drivers that came to pit road at the 1 to green under the most recent yellow. So having maybe that extra insurance in the tank, they feel the luxury to be a little bit more aggressive here. Loreley going alongside of Palmer here. They got a lot of momentum in that outside line right now. Might be able to
going
snipe
for the
this
lead.
lap. I think she's going to. First lap led of the night for the 094. A lot of momentum in that outer groove.
She restarted toward the back of this field, too, and made her way up there pretty quickly. Now she goes to the inside in front of Ken Roberts.
But Dennis McCarthy now is the lead car in that outside line. He's got help from Adam Simonik, as well as Ed Finley. Robert Jackson's up there, Brad Otto, Jeffrey Elliott. Looks like for Brian Rosson, at least for the time being, after he got a piece of that earlier wreck just across the start-finish line, looks like he's still up to speed here. He's at least able to stay up in the lead pack, so maybe pancaking the right side, they were able to do enough damage repair that he'll still remain competitive. Of course, he's trying to keep himself in the same zip code as that 18. He'd love to still hold the points lead over Chuck Taylor going into next week, as Jeffrey Elliott with a moment there on the back straightaway.
Elliott, who restarted in second spot, is now at the very back of this lead pack.
And Gary Heiser, who we saw flying through the air almost level with the flag stand, along with Mark Paglia. He's brought that number 3 machine to the garage area, joining John Godfrey. Heiser will get credit for 17th here this evening. Robert Spring is trying to stay in touch with the lead pack. Mark Paglia is badly off the pace, already over 10.5 seconds behind the race leaders. If we continue to trend green, they'll more than likely catch him and put him a lap down. He's been a lap down for a good portion of this race. Had an issue at the start, started from pit road, lost another lap under the green flag run when the field caught him, got a couple of quick yellows in succession to get back on the lead lap, and unfortunately for him, the 3rd caution swept him up, and he will be running the rest of this race, unfortunately, with damaged goods.
Looks like Robert Spring has lost the draft, too. He was also involved in that last caution. So we've got about, a 15 car pack, 15, 16 maybe?
Yeah, about 14 cars, it looks like, in this lead group. Back to Jeffrey Elliott and that bright yellow 56th. Tried to get themselves organized there for a 3rd line, but seen a lot of movement, a lot of side to side there as they're making their way through the corner, and you gotta have a tight draft at this particular racetrack if you're gonna make the longer way around the racetrack work. If that draft gets broken up just the least little bit. Oh, we got trouble in the back. Someone's around and there's no caution for it. I believe the 47 of Brad Otto got spun. Apparently, looks like he gathered it back up and we remain green.
That's a good save on his part, but a bad break at the same time.
Let's see what happened here. A little help from the 6 of Brian Rosson. That thing almost flipped over. Grabs the gear and keeps on going.
That looked like a pretty hard hit on the front end of that car, but able to keep it going.
He is obviously, as consequence, lost the lead pack. He would love a caution to catch back up, and with that incident happening and the 6 of Brian Rawson getting into him, take a look at now where it's put the points leader. He's lost the pack. As a matter of fact,
He's
I
coming to
believe.
pit road.
Yeah, I believe because that was an incident, a wreck that didn't bring out a caution, he's having to serve a pass-through. So that's going to be even more track position he's going to lose to the 18 of Chuck Taylor. Nobody seems to be able to hold on to the points lead. Last week, it was troubles for Taylor that put Rawson to the top of the standings, and now this week, problems for Rawson, a couple of issues. Chuck Taylor has run a flawless race, and now looks like he may take that points lead back.
It's going to be an interesting championship battle if he keeps going like this every single week. I mean, who knows how this is going to play out.
Again as well, remember that lap most drivers will be looking for to make that final pit stop going to be roughly around lap 55. We're about 8 to 9 laps outside of that as DC88 with a big save. Careful on re-entry as he's going to gather it back up, but that's going to be another driver that's now going to lose this lead group. 4th in points, 23 points out.
That's a nice save right there.
That
like
was.
their teammates lining up on the outside line here, trying to.
It's like the second half of the field, trying to see if they can maybe do something with the first half of the field. About 5-6 drivers here, going up against the top 5 drivers at the front. Oh, and one around. Oh my goodness. Robert Jackson, all 4 tires came up off the ground. That car literally floated, hovered for a moment with assistance from Jeffrey Elliott, and that is going to bring out the 4th caution of the night. And this now completely negates fuel strategy. Everybody should be able to make it the rest of the way, but we've seen blowovers, we've seen flips. I don't think I've ever seen a car hover before.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you on that one. And last few laps, man, it looked like they were trying to bring out a caution. They finally succeeded.
This will be a big break for a number of those guys there. DC88 and Brian Rawson, Robert Spring to be able to catch back up. We're doing this in slow motion, though it almost looked like when we were watching it live like it was slow motion. Watch this. As they were trying to get a second lane going back here from 6th place on back. Maybe a late bump there out of the trial from Simonic to Robert Jackson. Now watch this. The contact from Jeffrey Elliott, and all 4 tires are off the ground at this point in time. He almost flips over.
I feel like I was watching Back to the Future Part 2 seeing
right?
that. I mean, man.
I don't know why. It looked crazy or almost a little bit more unreal when it was in live time as opposed to the slow motion replay. Here's another angle of it.
I want to go on board with Elliott right there. I bet he had an interesting view of that.
I'm pretty sure all 4 tires were off the ground as he was crossing the start-finish line. Would the scoring monitor in the car, would that work if your tires aren't on the ground? Would it score you in a position?
That is a good question.
Wow. If Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway had a promo team for commercials, that would definitely be a clip.
There's a good one, yeah.
So everybody's going to be on pit road here during this caution period. It's like a couple of drivers going to stay out an extra lap or 2. But this should get us the rest of the way on fuel. Drivers would be about 2 laps to the good pitting at this point in time. We do not have any drivers a lap down, so there would be no free pass. We did have about 6 laps ago Mark Paglia, whose car was badly mangled. He joined Gary Heiser and John Godfrey behind the wall. So Paglia will get 16th, Heiser 17th, and John Godfrey in 18th. Everybody else on the lead lap of the 15 cars remaining. It's like Ken Roberts won the battle off of pit road over Greg Palmer and Jeffrey Elliott. Maybe a speeding penalty for the 094, who was leading when that caution came out.
Well, she's down on the apron.
Yeah,
Everybody
letting
going
drivers
by.
go by. So yeah, I think it might have been a speeding penalty there. You mentioned though how quickly she worked her way up through the field there on that last run. And there's going to be plenty of laps to work with here too. We're going to be going back green somewhere around, I'd say 14 laps to go. Maybe 15 to go if we can get the lights out this time, having no lap machines. Not sure about the strategy here. Now, Adam Simonik in the 016 might have stayed out the extra lap, claiming the incident, and then pitting the second time by, but I'm not sure about the strategy of the other drivers that also stayed out with him. Robert Jackson, Brad Otto, and Perry Bond. I would have thought if you were going to be good to make it on fuel, why give up the track position to come down pit road? But as soon as I say that, Brian Rawson, who I think would have cycled up to around 5th or 6th, he's on pit road again as well. Jessica Lorley coming back down. They might actually change tires on that car now.
And yes, that was a speeding penalty that she got, so.
Thought Jeffrey Elliott looked like he was coming down pit lane, but he changed his mind. Rawson's going to take on rubber. All the Wolfpack racing cars going to take on tires, and Shelton going to have to serve that EOL. Decides to come down and put fresh rubber on her race car as well.
Well, looks like the start of the race, 22 and 55 on the front row.
Yeah, I thought Ken Roberts won the battle off of pit lane, but might have just been catching up to the pace car, waiting for Greg Palmer to come around him. Palmer with that #1 pit stall gets the lead back. Jeffrey Elliott with staying out there. We saw him look like he was going to dive to pit lane, changed his mind, so he'll come back up here and resume 3rd place. Dennis McCarthy will be 4th, and looks like Ed Finley is going to complete the top 5 for the upcoming restart, which we should get the lights out next time by. One thing I was noticing, obviously we've got drivers out of the race that won't be able to come up here and lead a lap, but it's actually easier to read off the list of drivers that haven't led tonight as opposed to those that have. Of the drivers running right now, all but 5 drivers have led at least one circuit in this race. Ed Finley, Brian Wolf, Robert Spring, Robert Jackson, and Perry Bond. Those 5 still have a 0 in the lap led column. Everybody else has led at least 1 lap here this evening. A couple of drivers have led double-digit laps in this race, and they're actually going to be this front row. 11 laps led so far for Palmer, 18 for Ken Roberts.
Yeah, some of those laps led were under caution, but find a way to do it any way you can. So they all give out bonus points. So
we've seen Jeffrey Elliott at the front. We saw him kind of drift to the back of the lead pack, but he's got the fastest lap of the night overall. His Toyota Camry clocking in at a 48.022, equating to 199.215 miles per hour. Working our 4th caution of the evening here, getting ready to go back green with the lights out on the pace car at 14 laps remaining. You also have to remember as well, with them running the in-game yellows, and it looks like we've got about 2 to 3 laps every caution period, we will start venturing later on into that territory known as the point of no return. It will be interesting to see how drivers set up potential passes there. The last couple of races that we've covered in terms of Superspeedway racing, this past Thursday night for RTG, last Saturday night for Talladega Nights, drivers may be waiting a little bit too long to make their moves in an attempt to be able to get the victory. We'll see if that's going to be the case here tonight, or will somebody have the timing just right?
Yeah, everybody likes to play the heroic of, making that move on the last lap to take the victory, but that's a huge gamble waiting for that time as well, as we've seen. So
Update on our championship battle. Chuck Taylor is going to restart on the outside of row 4 in 8th. Brian Rawson will restart in, looks like 13th position. Correction, 14th position. So right now, Chuck Taylor, if scoring is correct, would find himself 1 point up on Brian Rawson for the points lead going into next week. But there's still 14 laps to go here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. A lot can happen between now and then. Greg Palmer and Ken Roberts going back to lap 1 as they'll be the front row to bring us back green on the completion of lap 52.
Palmer gets the advantage on the restart. Goes to the outside with Roberts behind him now.
Saw him kind of shading the middle there, kind of seeing if he could control both lanes before ultimately committing to the...
Oh boy!
Oh, they're going to save it! No, they're not! Jeffrey Elliott, Chuck Taylor. In the 18, Ed Finley was in that as well. And for the second straight week, late race problems for the 18 car, and I believe the 6 of Brian Rawson may have also gotten a piece of that. So our top 2 in points, both getting collected up in this one. Some pretty significant visible damage on the back end of Chuck Taylor's Miller Genuine Draft number 18 machine. Not sure how much damage Brian Rawson got. He was towards the tail end of the incident. And Jeffrey Elliott looks like he may be done for the night after being in the center of this one. Here's a look at it down the back straightaway. Watch the 024, the brown UPS car there in that middle line, and
something happened to the 80, it looks like.
Maybe an uneven
Contact
bump to
started with
Jeffrey
the-
Elliott. Go to our trusty helicopter cam.
Bumper grab?
Bumper grab, maybe a chain bump. We'll go back and look again from this camera angle and see if we can follow them a little bit further back down the back straightaway. Keep an eye on the 80 and the 29 on the inside line. Brian Wolf is closer to Finley than Finley is to Elliott, and I think that right there, yeah, they chain bumped. When the 80 got into the 56, it slowed his momentum. He gets a second shove from Brian Wolf, and that time the bump was uneven.
And the 18 car got hit in the front and the back.
Let's go on board
pretty
with
good.
Chuck Taylor here. Nothing you can do. You're stuck in that outside line. You just have to hope that the path clears in front of you.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, it looked like from that angle that maybe more damage to the back end of the race car than the front end. which he might be able to get away with. They might not even remove that back bumper cover. They may actually be able to beat that out and send him back on his way, and he may still be able to be up to speed. We'll have to wait and see, though. But Brian Rawson looked like he maybe got a little bit of a hip check there as he went to the inside to avoid. He was able to actually keep going, however. So I would say rather minimal contact on his machine. Nonetheless, though, it puts him and Taylor back in the same vicinity with each other towards the rear of the field on this upcoming restart, as Jeffrey Elliott has indeed retired from the race. He'll finish in 15th. So we're talking about Jeffrey with the podium finish last week. If he was able to put together a good run down the home stretch of the season, could be in the championship battle. This DNF here tonight, depending on where the 18 and the 6 specifically finish, as well as the 29 of Brian Wolf. This may negate the good run last week and may have him now mathematically out of the championship hunt with only 2 races left to go after this evening. Let's see if we get the lights out this time, as we have no lap machines once again. And nope, looks like we're still going to get that 1 extra lap of pacing.
So we're going to have less than 10 laps to go on the restart. And any caution that happens within 10 laps to go, they race back to the line.
Working our 5th caution of the evening here. Greg Palmer trying to take that bonus point from Ken Roberts for most laps led. Ken had 18. Greg Palmer currently with 16, and with us getting this next lap and then the following lap for the green, should we get the lights out, Palmer will be then tied with Ken at 18 laps led each. Gotta wonder what the situation now is for Brian Wolf in that 29, because 2 of the competitors you were trying to run down, Brian Rawson, he's been in a couple of incidents tonight. Taylor just now getting involved in this wreck. Brian currently in the 5th position, could make up a ton of ground on those 2. Close up that battle for the championship.
He's just hoping this race goes, just goes well the rest of the night. Event, caution free or whatever. It's looking good for him to gain a lot of ground. But the way it's been here the last, I don't know how many laps, hard to tell what's about to happen.
It's been hard for drivers to kind of get into a rhythm. We had a couple of long green flag runs, saw a cycle of, well, almost a complete cycle of green flag pit stops in the early going. But now everybody knows they're good to make it on fuel, and everything's going to happen now on the right side of the yellow line up on the racing surface. We should get the lights out this time by Greg Palmer, going to be the race leader. Ken Roberts in 2nd. These 2 shared the front row to kick this race off. Maybe sharing the front row for the final restart of the night. Dennis McCarthy going to line up in 3rd. DC88, he's had a consistent quiet night here. Led a couple of laps in the early going and going to restart in 4th. Brian Wolf in 5th. Adam Simonik will be 6th with Robert Jackson 7th. Ed Finley in 8th. Perry Bond 9th. And Jessica Lorley will complete the top 10. And to remind everybody, we'll be continuing on coverage of the 2nd season of the ASR Superspeedway Series next Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Penultimate race of the season to determine who will mathematically be in the hunt for the championship in the finale 2 weeks from tonight.
It's interesting. You look at a super speedway race and probably think, well, qualifying really doesn't matter because you can go from, 15th to 5th in like a lap. Well, take a look at how the qualifying went tonight. Greg Palmer and Ken Roberts, they've been up front this whole race, so back position means something, at least in this race.
And especially, I've been told by drivers that if you have those pit stalls up towards the exit of pit road under caution pit stops, you don't have that far to go when you launch out of your stall. Makes getting those pole positions or outside of the front row, those up towards the end of pit road stalls, very, very important if you end up having late race pit stops under yellow flag conditions. So a couple of Buick Regals going to bring us down here through the tri-oval and get ready to put us back under green. We will be at 9 laps to go here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Green flag in the air. Roughly about, I would say, 4, maybe 5 laps away from that portion of the race we dubbed the point of no return. Let's see what happens between now and then. A lot of bumping, a lot of movement there in that second lane. Jessica Lorley trying to make something happen in that third groove. No help as of yet. Perry Bond looked like he might have been shading up, but he was a little far back to offer assistance. Locked up for the race lead here, Roberts Palmer, who led that one. Scoring's going to give it to the 22.
Just barely, though. I mean, that was 2 even lines as right now. But
I don't know if Palmer got loose, but that car was a lot lower off the corner than we see most of the time. I wasn't sure if maybe he was getting turned by Dennis McCarthy, but bit of a heart-stopping moment for the entire field as the leader was extremely low off that corner, maybe just trying to defend that inside line as best he can. Roberts in that middle line, they've lost some ground. He was side by side with Palmer. Now he's going to fall back to side by side with Brian Wolf for third. McCarthy almost clear for the second position. Trying to be the first repeat winner here in Season 2.
Palmer and Roberts still side by side. Wow.
Looks like Chuck Taylor's just latched on barely to the tail end of this pack. I'm not sure if he's got a car strong enough to contend up here for the win. Brian Rawson's trying to drive up the middle there with Jessica Lorley to the outside. Adam Simonic, correction, Robert Jackson on the inside line. I'll get those Wolfpack cars figured out soon. Now more drivers jumping up to that third lane there. DC88 jumping up there. Ed Finley was up there for a moment. Now he goes from top all the way to the bottom as Palmer having to make some decisions here. Up off the inside line, jumps to the middle to block Dennis McCarthy. Top 2, 3, maybe 4 going to be clear going into 3.
29 is now leading that inside line. Oh,
Whoa!
boy, Palmer took a shot there.
Great save by Greg Palmer.
Saves the car and he keeps the lead.
I guarantee you there is not a single eye in Greg Palmer's head that's looking at the windshield right now. He has them plastered on the rearview mirror, trying to figure out where those runs are coming from. McCarthy jumps up to the outside, was trying to see if he could get to the right rear quarter panel of Palmer. Palmer jumps up to cover, and here comes Brian Wolf with a push on the inside. Oh, Russin rides up off the corner there, off of 4, almost makes contact with Brad Otto. And point of no return has been reached. Next flag will end the race here tonight at Burnt Screwdriver's Raceway. Palmer continues to lead, but now Roberts jumps down to the inside line. Here comes the third line. Wolfpack Racing's Adam Simonik. And he's got a lot of help.
McCarthy caught in the middle with no help.
All of a sudden, everybody jumps down to the middle line. Brad Otto was left high and dry in the third groove. Here we go, side by side for the lead. Coming around here to 3 laps remaining. Palmer, Simonik. I believe Palmer just barely edged out the 0-16 at the stripe that time by. Only 4 cars in that outside line. Most everybody else hugging the yellow line out of turn 2.
So the outside, well, 22 coming back. Nobody really has any advantage right now.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to who can keep their draft the tightest, I think. That middle line can stay locked up. I think they're going to have the momentum on these straightaways against the inside line. Simonik is clear. Does he go to the bottom? Does he stay up there with his teammate in the middle lane? Less than 2 to go. Here comes the third lane. McCarthy. DC-88, Jessica Loreley.
Palmer fighting back on the bottom. Every time they get
Oh!
free. Oh boy.
Ed Finley up and over. This is going to bring out the yellow. This is going to end the race. We're going to come back to the white and the caution. Roberts jumps to the outside on Palmer, but there's nobody behind to help him. Rawson's on the apron. He's going to turn the 0-16. Caution is out. White flag waves. It might as well be the checkers. Greg Palmer is going to bring them back to the stripe. He'll pick up the victory, but a lot of sorting is going to have to be done of who finished where, as we had a wreck coming to the caution flag as well.
Boy, the way they were racing, I can't say I'm surprised that we got that kind of finish.
Scoring showing Brian Wolf crossing the line in second, Ken Roberts in third. And the reason why I'm saying that we're going to have to wait for scoring to kind of settle itself out to figure out where everybody else finished was because that wreck coming to the line, Brian Rawson looked like he may have had his left side tires down below the yellow line. Don't know if he was forced there or not, but then he made the contact with Simonik that sent him up into the wall just underneath the flag stand. So I don't know if penalties, a post-race EOL would be handed out in that regard, and if it did, it would have huge ramifications for the points standings because Chuck Taylor, right now, finished right behind Rawson. They were 4th and 5th when they crossed the stripe.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here.
We'll go back and take a look at the replay of what brought out the yellow involving Ed Finley in the 80, and then that subsequent wreck coming back to the proverbial checkers, if you will, via the white flag and the caution waving at the same time through the tri-oval. But Greg Palmer is going to lead a race-high 25 laps. He started from the pole. He's going to go coast to coast and pick up the victory here in race number 6 of the season. Becomes the 6th different driver to go to victory lane as well. Let's go back and see what brought out the caution, and then the wreck coming back to the start-finish line. Ed Finley was towards the back end of the pack. Like he might have gotten a little squirrely. Don't know if he got some assistance here, as he and Brad Otto were trying to catch up and see which line they were going to try to help there. Ooh, maybe, little contact. Was that Chuck Taylor, I think, on the inside? Not sure if he drifted up or if the 80 pinched him down, but now that's both of the drivers' top 2 in points. That's kind of called into question of whether they're going to have some kind of a post-race penalty or not, depending on circumstances.
A lot of damage to the back end of that car.
And then this is what was the wreck coming back to the start-finish line. Watch the 6, the red and white machine of Brian Rawson on the bottom. Does he get forced down below the line is the question. It doesn't
maybe
appear to be, but maybe. Up into Dennis McCarthy, who then comes down into Perry Bond. Ooh, wow, DC-88 took a massive hit back there into the inside fence.
Whoever that was to his outside, I mean, it looked like he was coming down. I don't know if there was enough room, or Rawson felt like he had to go to the bottom to avoid him, but we'll see what the call is.
Well, Greg Palmer burning it down here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. We do know that he is the winner of tonight's event. Brian Wolf crosses in second, so he will gain some ground on the top 2 in points. And Ken Roberts, who led 19 laps this evening, is going to cap off the podium. Rest of the finishing results from about 7th on down are kind of some question marks, I guess we could say, as well as 5th and 6th there. Rawson and Taylor finishing right next to each other. Jessica Loreley comes back for 6th. McCarthy, who got swept up there into that wreck with Simonic, managed to, I guess, wreck across the start-finish line in 7th. That's where he'll finish. Perry Bond in 8th, DC-88 in 9th, and Robert Jackson in 10th. Then Brad Otto, Ed Finley, Robert Spring were the last drivers to finish under power. Adam Simonic was not able to drive his car back around for the final lap, so he will finish 14th. And then 4 drivers out of the race: Jeffrey Elliott, Mark Paglia, Gary Heiser, and John Godfrey. Well, that's going to take us into our FRM post-race wind-down. We'll see if we'll have an update for you all of what the point standings look like going into next week at the conclusion of these interviews. As we now dial up the drivers that bring it home inside of the top 3 tonight. Let's kick things off with the driver who started second, brings it home third, Ken Roberts.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Ken, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. Got a copy?
Sure do, Seth.
Wild race here tonight. Looked like all 3 lanes were working, especially here in the closing stages, but also looked like it was kind of hard to be able to have people stay dedicated to those respective lines. You restarted on the outside of the front row. We've seen you up front for a good portion of this race as well. What little more do you need to go your way to be out in front, or if you maybe had that extra lap here under green, did you have a plan to be able to get up there and take this victory?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of shuffling around. It's a short season, only 8 races, so every point counts. So I think that's why guys are a little more aggressive. It's fun. I mean, there's a lot of shuffling going around, a lot of movement, and they're even there at the end. The guys that third line started, and that you know what that does. That changes everything. So then we got that caution. I got a little bit of run on Palmer and tried to get to his outside, but. Wolf stayed with him on the inside, so ended up third, but wasn't too bad. It's good points tonight. Sure couldn't. I need them. So
yeah, good points tonight for sure. We documented that both your top 10 finishes this season have been up inside of the top 5 as well. Another great run here this evening. We also talked about the importance of pit road, and you qualified this race in second, so you had one of those stalls up towards the exit of pit lane. Looked like that paid dividends for you on the final pit stop.
Oh yeah, definitely. Being that close, was able to get in and out pretty quickly. So yeah, it's Palmer. That's the fastest qualifying lap I've ever seen him do. So I don't know, he's figured something out or whatever. But yeah, it was good. You want a good pit stop, so you can get in and out quickly and try to avoid some of the carnage sometimes there in the back.
Well, a great run for you here tonight, Ken. Led 19 circuits here this evening, bringing home solidly on the podium down the home stretch of the season. Congratulations on the great run here tonight. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, like to thank my teammates. You know, it was fun racing with them guys tonight. Like to thank the guys here at ASR and Wolf for putting this on a Sunday. It's a fun little series. It's kind of a hidden gem, but it's been a lot of fun. Like to thank Rodney for the paint. You know, he always does a amazing job. And then Bryant Motorsports for sponsoring all this. So really appreciate all those guys.
Well, Ken, once again, congratulations on the great run here tonight. We'll have to see. Might be a little outside the window of being able to get this championship, but who knows? Maybe a third place is a step in the right direction. We'll have to see, but a great run for you tonight nonetheless. Congratulations and best of luck next week.
And thanks, guys, and thank you guys too for doing the broadcast. Really enjoy those.
Absolutely. That's Ken Roberts. He brings it home third place here tonight. Let's see if we can get a hold of the driver that brings it home P2 and may have closed up some distance on that overall points lead. Let's dial up Brian Wolf.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Brian,
channel.
it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you, 10-4.
Hey, not the last time we're talking to you here this evening. I know you would have loved that one position better, but a bit of an adventurous night as well. Looked like you got a little squirrely on one of those restarts, had to make your way back up through the field in the hornet's nest, if you will, here in the closing stages, having to figure out which lane was going to go forward. Of course, you're battling the 6 and the 18 to try and get into that championship battle as well. How chaotic was it in those closing stages for the 29 car?
Very chaotic, man. I gotta say, I love running door to door with Ken Roberts. I'm content to finish podium, you know what I mean, because of how our points are scored. But congratulations to Palmer, man. That was a tremendous run at the end. And yeah, like you mentioned, I caused some grief on that one restart there, and it just so happened I just got done lecturing these guys on, hey, this is the time we pay attention, and and still learning the whole admin thing, and but it was just a simple mistake, but no harm, no foul. But we had a couple rough cautions there, but overall I'll give this race a B plus or close to an A, man. We had a lot of fun tonight.
Hey, that's the important part. Obviously too, maybe might want that last lap under green if it had happened. Did you have any idea, any plan where you could have maybe gotten around Greg? Because it looked like he was moving up off the bottom, trying to block some of those runs, and you seem pretty committed to that yellow line in the closing stages.
Yeah, I always am. That's always been my strategy, because I know at this track with this setup, it's not unlike, your RTGs and your Talladega Nights, PRL, it's once that third line forms on the top, that bottom line just goes, you know what I mean? So that's why I try to stay committed there. And man, it got hairy there for a minute, but like I said, running door to door with Roberts, man, that's a thrill for me. Anytime I can get up there and run with those names in the front, man, because it's not something I'm real used to.
Well, a great run for you here tonight. It'll be interesting to see how this closes up the gap. You had 19 points between yourself and the points lead coming into tonight. You finish ahead of both the 6 and the 18, so might make things very interesting going into next week with only 2 races remaining in the season. Congratulations on the great run here tonight, Brian. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Absolutely. Definitely want to thank our sponsors that pay the bills around here. Like I said before, we don't have to rely on membership donations. I mean, we do welcome them, but we have a paid sponsor that pays for all of our website stuff and our TeamSpeak stuff, and then provides funding for our broadcasting. So without that, this just doesn't happen. And so I got to thank those guys, and hope they're having a good time with us. And we'll see you back here next week, man. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it.
Brian Wolf trying to make things interesting here down the close of the season for the championship. Second place here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations once again, and best of luck looking to keep this momentum up into next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Brian Wolf second place as we now go down to Victory Lane and dial up the 6th different winner on the season. Let's get a hold of Greg Palmer.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Greg, it's the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Hey, what's going on, Seth, Kyle?
I'll tell you what, strong car all night long, started on the pole position, led 25 laps, but I also want to point out it wasn't smooth sailing. You were nearly wrecked off of turn 4 at one point there around the 10 to go mark, so really had to earn it here tonight. Great job on defensive driving, throwing the blocks at the right time. This 22 looked like it couldn't be beat here in the closing stage of the race.
Yeah, that bump in 4, man, I think a little fluid came out into my underwear. I was like, wow. I was like, oh, thank goodness I saved it. But yeah, we had a good car, man. My Pepsi Chevy Monte Carlo was pretty fast tonight, I have to say.
Certainly was, and obviously brought the speed in the early going, and qualifying gave you that #1 pit stall. We saw that obviously the race ended under caution, but if we go back to the restart prior, you ended up coming down pit road. That #1 pit stall gave you the lead to be able to kind of control the narrative for the remainder of the race. How important was that, being able to be the leader rather than having to be the second, third place car trying to get around?
It's a double-edged sword there, Seth. You know that. Being first, you have to drive with your eyes in the rearview mirror, and that's exactly what I was doing. Sometimes the best spot to be would be second, possibly third. I would think third. These guys, they could have just busted a move and passed me. But, well, luckily the cars were, I had a good hand, I had to say. Yeah, came out first, and I was, like I just mentioned, I was driving in my rearview mirror, just watching these guys, and I had something for them, coming down to the final lap, but unfortunately, the yellow came out.
Yeah, also, I want to talk about the timing of the caution when you guys were getting ready to make that first round of green flag pit stops. We ended up seeing you and a number of other drivers taking service. Now, it looked to me like you guys didn't make the commitment line before the caution flew, but you took service regardless. Was that absolutely out of necessity? Because I know you led a good portion of that first run. Did you not have the fuel to be able to come back around?
Yeah, I didn't have the fuel. I was down to 3 pounds. So
Okay.
I took the penalty. It was early in the race. We know we can make it up, and EOLL, and more or less start all over.
Well, you definitely did make it up. You were out in front the beginning portion of this race, made your way back up through the field, and bring it home at the front of the field here tonight, becoming the 6th different winner on the season. Greg, congratulations on a job well done. As we said, that 22 car looked really fast all night long. You get to park it in Victory Lane here this evening. And before I let you get back to your celebrating, we'll give you the floor for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Appreciate that, Seth. I want to thank, first and foremost, Bryant Motorsports for paying for the broadcast and just making themselves available for this. I'm sure they saw a pretty good race. There's a lot of wrecks, but we had a good time out here. I want to thank my teammates, Ken Roberts, Dennis, Mark. Mark left early. He wrecked, not left early, but he wrecked out. And John Godfrey. We had a good time, back and forth, staying with each other, sort of, and it was a good time here. I mean, I have a good time here. We all do, and I'm looking forward to every Sunday coming here.
Well, we saw some really aggressive hard racing here in the closing stages, but as you said, and it seems like it's been the running theme, we've talked with drivers about this league. It's been fun. It's been enjoyable, so great to see that here in this series. It's getting interesting for the championship battle with 2 races remaining, and best of luck next week. Maybe can become the first repeat winner on the season, as we currently have a 6-way tie with 1 win each. So best of luck there. Congratulations on the victory here tonight, Greg.
I appreciate it, Seth. You too, Kyle. I'll see you guys during the week, and of course next Sunday.
Sounds good. That's Greg Palmer. He parks his
User
Darrell
was
Waltrip
moved out of your
throwback in
channel.
Victory Lane here tonight. 6th different driver to pick up a checkered flag in Season 2 of the ASR Super Speedway Series. So it looks like, at least for the moment, we don't have an updated point standings for you heading into next week. But With what we saw here in the closing stages, the 6, the 18 finishing around each other, Brian bringing it home on the podium. I think it's safe to say, we don't think this is too much of a spoiler, I think the points lead is going to close up, and with only 2 races left to go in super speedway racing, as unpredictable as it is, I think people are going to want to tune in to these final 2 races of the season for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe the points lead isn't where you want to be. Like how it keeps swapping hands back and forth every single week. So who knows how this thing is going to play out?
Very well could be the case. Either that or nobody wants to keep the points lead. I'm not sure what the case may be. But whatever it is, we are getting ready now to set the table for the championship next Sunday night. We'll be back here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we will be in the penultimate race of the season to find out who will mathematically be in the hunt to take home the championship in Season 2 of the ASR Super Speedway Series. We thank you for joining us here tonight. Again, we've got a full week of broadcast starting Tuesday night with our friends at Split Second Broadcasting, then Wednesday night at 9, Thursday night at 9, Saturday night at 9, and then back here next Sunday night at 8 all times Eastern. Be sure to join us as it is going to be a lot of racing during the course of the next 7 days. But thank you for joining us here tonight. Congratulations to Greg Palmer on his victory. For Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.